Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, wants to meet some interesting animals? We head out to Sarasota Jungle Gardens, where we get up close to this bird of prey, and also have to try and get away from this not-so-little playful tortoise. There's one behind you. No brain, no blood, and they can regenerate. Sounds like an animal from another planet. Our Inspector Planet finds out all about the amazing sea stars. And ever wonder what's under the water? There are some interesting creatures that don't even look real. We are exploring the bay with Sarasota Bay Explorers. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. There's one historical Florida attraction that we always need to visit. Sarasota Jungle Gardens has been around for more than 70 years, and the wide range of animals keeps us coming back to learn more. We recently got a chance to get up close and get to know some of their residents. Well, we are here with my new best friend, Francis. And Francis is an owl.
Yes.
What type of owl?
He is a great horned owl.
Now, he's not endangered at this point?
They are not, but they are native to Florida.
So, what does he do in a day's time?
So out in the wild, these guys are nocturnal, so they're actually active in the nighttime. That means they have to catch all of their food and their prey at night when it's very dark outside. So owls have amazing senses. They have amazing eyesight, amazing hearing as well. That does help them to find all of their food when it's completely dark outside.
Now, many times we hear of these stories, don't know if it's folklore or if it's truth, that the owl will many times get his eyes onto a small animal, perhaps a very, very small dog, a prey, and then goes after it. Is this true?
So that is how they'll hunt. They'll perch themselves up high in a tree and they'll kind of spot their prey around there. They can catch pretty large prey. These guys will feed on small mammals, so that includes your skunks, sometimes opossums, raccoons as well, so they can prey on larger animals.
So if we are taking our dogs out at night and we know that there's some owls up in the tree, we should be a little bit careful, don't you think?
Maybe a little bit. Most small dogs even might be a little bit too large for these guys, but always good to keep your eye out.
Now, what is their longevity?
So these guys can live about 15 years.
And he is absolutely gorgeous. You should see these gorgeous green eyes. And when he looks at you, he's looking through you.
Yes.
Isn't he?
Definitely.
Yes, and he's winking. And I know that the law prohibits me from touching him.
Yes.
But in the whole scheme of things, of our world and our ecosystem and all of us trying to do our part, why the owl?
So these guys are awesome at feeding on rodents. They love to feed on rodents like rats and mice. That's very helpful for us because a lot of times rodents can carry diseases that can make us and the ecosystem pretty unhealthy. These guys are really awesome natural rodent control. So they help to keep that rodent population in check, which helps to keep the spread of disease down as well. These larger owls, like the great horned owls, they also feed on lots of rabies vectors. So skunks and also raccoons, those guys can carry rabies, which kind of spreads disease throughout our ecosystems, and these guys do feed on those as well.
What makes an owl an owl?
So great horned owls get their name because of these feathers they have on top of their head. These are actually called plumicorns. They kind of look like fake horns, but those are actually how they kind of express their emotion. So if they were slicked back or if they were straight up, you can kind of guess that he might be either a little agitated or excited about something. Right now they're kind of just hanging out right in the middle, which means he's very content, which is exactly what we want. They also have very cool feathers. They practice something called silent flight. So their feather makeup is a little bit different than a lot of other birds. They have serrated feathers, so air can pass through silently. These guys are awesome at sneaking up on their prey because they can fly silently. They also have very strong talons, as you can see. These talons are incredibly strong. They use them to grab onto their prey, and they can fly off with prey that actually is quite heavy. So those talons are very, very important for them to catching their prey.
What else can you tell us about this beautiful creature?
So Francis was actually a rescue. He was in an accident where hunters did try to shoot him, probably for his feathers. He did survive, but he did have to have a part of his wing amputated by veterinarians. You can actually have him spread his wings to show you guys. So right over
yes.
here, you can
We
see he's missing a little bit of his wing. He would not be able to fly out in the wild to catch food, so he was deemed non-releasable by the government, and then they reached out to us to have a permanent home for him here.
And so how has he adapted to Jungle Gardens here in Sarasota?
He's been here quite a long time. Obviously, he's very comfortable with people. He's an awesome ambassador for his species. We bring him out a lot during our shows to teach people all about owls. So he has an amazing life here. He gets food delivered right to him. So definitely adapting very well.
And he is how old at this point?
We're actually not sure how old he was since he is a rescue. He's definitely an adult, but we're not sure of his age.
Well, you're very wise. Now, who do we have here?
So this here is Roscoe.
Oh my. Now, what type of, it's a tortoise, right?
Yes, this is a tortoise, and he is an Aldabra tortoise, which is the second largest species of tortoise in the world.
Where would he normally be found?
So these guys are found on a group of islands off the coast of Africa.
He really likes that banana, and you don't even have to peel it for him, do you?
No, he has a very strong beak and can chew right through this. Same thing with raw sweet potatoes, raw carrots. So they have a very powerful bite.
Now, how old is Roscoe?
So Roscoe's about 63 years old.
Oh, well.
But these guys can live up to 200 years.
Oh my, then you're a child. So now, how did Roscoe find his way to Jungle Gardens?
So Roscoe actually used to be part of the circus. So that facility got shut down, and that's why he kind of has this behavior where he's moving quite quickly. This isn't a normal Aldabra behavior.
And he's very verbal.
Yes.
Very verbal. So obviously, lunch is not coming fast enough, right? Right? Now, how much can he eat?
So these guys can eat a couple pounds of fruits and veggies a day, but he's so large. But reptiles do have a slow metabolism, so it does take a long time to break that down. And like in the circus, they rewarded this behavior, so it's like this isn't normal Aldabra behavior.
But you said he was in the circus.
Yes.
What could he have possibly done?
So they actually rode him around.
Oh,
so they
my
trained
goodness.
that behavior of him kind of moving very quickly. That way he would ride them around. So that's not what these guys are used for.
No,
need
and
to
that
be
could not
used
have been
for.
that comfortable for him.
No, not at all. So they do have all that feeling in their shell. So he can feel everything. But luckily that we end up getting him, and he has a much better life here and all the attention.
Now, how much does he weigh again?
So Roscoe weighs about 500 pounds, but these guys can get about 550, 600 pounds.
Okay.
Did you want to try to feed Roscoe?
Well, I'll give him one little bitty banana without my fingers. Whoop! That scared me. Okay. He can have the whole thing.
Here you go, Roscoe.
How dangerous, if at all, are those claws?
So these claws, they're not that sharp. It's really filed down based on his...
Ah, and there's one behind you. For more information on Sarasota Jungle Gardens, log on to their website. The park's mission is to educate and inspire the public to learn more about animals and nature through programs that create a bond and leave a lasting experience. And that certainly happened with us. I've never seen a tortoise this big and that active. Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, it might surprise you to hear sea stars are one of the top predators in their ecosystem, feeding on almost anything they come across. Our Inspector Planet shows us all about this unusual animal.
Coming up next, an innocent sea star? Well, sometimes looks can be deceiving.
Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. We ensure that every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Prospective pet parents undergo a thorough adoption review to ensure a lifetime of love and care. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org. Dante's Den, continuing the love. Science is everywhere, and it's all around us. It's observing the world, forming questions, and the willingness to find the answers. It's something our Inspector Planet does every day, and you can too.
My name is Dr. Tracy Fanara, research scientist and environmental engineer. At Moat Marine Laboratory, I use investigation and experimentation to answer questions. So Ross, these things are amazing. However, there's got to be more to it. I mean, how have they survived so long just sitting here, easy prey? It just doesn't even make sense.
Well, I gotta say, they're a pretty stellar animal. Terrible, oh my gosh. But yes, absolutely. Sea stars are one of the most amazing animals, I think, out there in general. They are the top predator in their little tide pool ecosystem. So I know, right, a lot of people think of these—
predator?
I know, right, crazy. A lot of people think of these like giant apex predators as like these eels or sharks or stingrays or orcas. Well, these guys are on that same level, just in their little tide pool habitat. So I like to think of a sea star as the wolf of the tide pool. Their job is to keep everything below them actually in check. Now, here's the crazy part.
So they're kind of like a keystone species.
Absolutely, they 100% are, absolutely. Apex predator, I love that. So the cool thing about being an apex predator is that nothing really eats them because there's not really anything to eat. So when you're having your delicious meaty dinner, what part of the animal are you eating?
The muscle.
The muscles, absolutely. Here's the weird part. Sea stars don't have any muscles. These clams, mussels, barnacles, all these animals actually have muscles. So even though they might like inherently anchor on and like clamp down, the sea stars can gradually open them up because they always win, because they'll never get tired.
Right.
Ever.
And they use hydraulic power to actually open up those shells.
Absolutely.
And there's no drought in the ocean. This is evidence. Evidence that a sea star was here.
Now, here's the crazy part. Sea stars are the only animal in the world that takes their stomach and throws it out of its body. Oh my gosh. But it gets even crazier than that, because when that stomach blasts out of its body, it lands on and envelops whatever it wants to eat. So give me a clam. Put your hand, perfect. So it'll finally crawl on top, shoot its stomach out on top. It gets even crazier than that. It gradually melts the prey with acid. It shoots its stomach acid out, melts the shells, melts up all that delicious meat on the inside, and sucks it all the way back in. So they have no brains, no hearts, no bones, they kind of have eyes, and they don't really breathe. So the weird thing about these sea stars is they have a special little opening right on top. They have this little drain that's called a madroporite, and it sucks in all that water that they pump out through their arms. So they are literally a jet-propelled animal.
That
Amazing.
is incredible. Holy moly. They're like an alien creature. Just like we get rid of our waste, so do sea stars, except they do that on the top of their body. On the bottom of their body is where they take in that water and bring it to each of their arms. Now, there's over 2,000 species of sea stars. Some have 5 arms, some have up to 50. Each one of these arms has everything that it needs to survive. So one of these arms can break off and grow another sea star, which is pretty amazing. So the question is, how do they move? So basically they take in water and that starts their hydraulic system. So let's see if we can use an example to show how this happens. So the sea star, say this is the center of the sea star, and it's going to pull water from the ocean, and then it's going to transfer that water to the rest of the body. So after they have water in their arms, each of their little feet contract and release, causing the others to move every time this happens. So eventually, you get a walking movement. Pretty impressive for an animal with no brain, huh? So these seemingly innocent animals are actually incredible predators. Looks really can be deceiving. Remember guys, anyone could be a scientist or an engineer with some passion, hard work, and an innate curiosity of how the world works.
Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, hop on board as we're exploring an extremely unique ecosystem and discovering the animals that live there. Estuaries play an important role in the health of our environment overall. And there are a lot of animals that are essential to the well-being of this unique and often overlooked ecosystem.
As a biologist for Sarasota Bay Explorers, our job is to narrate the experience and make it fun for people so that they can learn and they're interested in learning the health of the bay and the animals in it. And the goal for us is to make it meaningful enough to them to where they're inspired to take more action in helping their environment, helping our environment. We really try to bring people to a different level of consciousness so that we're making a difference in the world. 1, 2, 3. We actually threw a trawl net out into the water and we caught some animals. We are permitted to do this, so we have permission to use this type of net and to collect these animals. I see some fish. We do release them at the end of the day. So no grouper sandwiches, no crab cakes for anybody. We caught some really cool animals on our trip today. We are permitted to, and we will release everybody at the end of the day. But these animals, we kind of surprise people with because you don't really know what you're looking at unless you're trained. This organism right here might not look like much, but it is actually a sea squirt. And it squirts out water because it is a filter feeder. So it's bringing water into the body, filtering through it, picking out any microorganisms that it would like to eat, and then it expels that water back out using that squirting siphon, the ocean's water guns. These are animals, so we are very gentle with them. We don't want to squeeze them too hard. They have internal gills, they have an internal heart and other organs, so we don't like to harm those in any way. We like to handle them very gently and just give them a light finger hug. This is the sea squirt, also known as the tunicate. This other organism that looks kind of strange is actually a jellyfish. But it's not like most jellyfish that you know of. Most jellyfish that you know of have the bell up top and then the tentacles that come down below. But this jellyfish is flipped. So the bell is on the bottom, the tentacles are facing the sky and the sun. So it gets the name upside down jellyfish. Scientific name is Cassiopeia. And those tentacles that we're looking at have a special color in them, that blue, because of algae that lives in the tentacles. So the whole reason the body is upside down is because the algae has to get sunlight. It has to face the sun so that it can photosynthesize and feed the jellyfish through that photosynthesis. So it is exchanging food for rent, and we call this a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship. Both parties are benefiting by being with each other.
Stay with us. There's more animal outtakes coming up next.
People have asked me what it'll cost to restore all the corals back the way they remember. But I have to ask them, what will it cost if we don't do anything?
So this is a parrotlet. This is the smallest type of parrot. So they stay about this size, but they're just like your big parrots. They learn about 150 words. So it's really nice for families that want a, a bird that talks, a bird that enjoys and spends time with them, but is not a huge commitment as far as cage and all that goes. These guys are gorgeous. The boys will have purple on their back end, so the girls won't. So it's one of the few birds that you can tell their sex by coloration. Both of these are little boys, and they're about 10 weeks old. These guys will live about 15 to 20 years. They don't get much bigger. They're gonna fill out a little more since they're only about 2.5 months old. But as far as size goes, this is about their full size. I would suggest starting with one. Parrotlets can bond to each other, so you want them to kind of bond to you first. Down the road, if you want a second one, go for it. That's awesome. With any bird, we usually suggest always, if you decide to add a second bird, have a separate cage available next to each other. That way they can get to know each other. But birds can sometimes be a little feisty when they're put together, so you always want to have separate spaces for them. We typically like to do a combination of seed and pellet because when they go home, we don't know which way people want to go. We prefer a pellet diet. It's a little bit healthier for them. We start them on a mix of sunburst cockatiel, some Tropican pellets, and then we usually put a little bit of true fruit on top of that. Helps with the babies, entice them when they're eating their seed, when they're moving from the baby food to seed. Yeah, cage size doesn't have to be real big, which is a nice thing. You don't have to have a huge cage in your house for these guys. I love parrotlets just because they are usually, every parrotlet I've known is a snuggler. So it's really nice for people that want that companionship of a bird, but maybe don't have the option of a large bird in their house. They might live in an apartment and can't have a large bird that are sometimes very noisy. These guys aren't going to be loud, but they're also going to talk with you, and typically they like to snuggle. They're going to sit right up there on your shoulder, they're going to snuggle with you. Every single one of these I've known has a little snuggle sack in their cage because that's what they like to do. They're just a very bonding type of bird.
This show is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a lifetime care facility for our four-legged friends. Hundreds of Dante's dogs have been adopted, but there are some who will need constant care and will stay here at the sanctuary forever. Like Sunny, our pit bull terrier. Sunny is a playful, loving, and kind blue-nosed pit bull. Sunny came to Dante's Den after she was used as a bait dog in illegal dogfighting rings, and rightfully so. She's extremely fearful around other dogs. But what Sunny does crave is human attention. And that's what we at Dante's Den provide Sunny with every day: love and companionship. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.
Marcia, do you want to go a little closer to her there?
Sure.
Right here?
Just keep feeding those bananas.
All right, Marcia, you're on.
Okay. Coming up now on Animal Outtakes. Woo!
Hold on.
What did you want to?
What is that supposed to be?
What's it supposed to be?
Owl.
Wow. So woo!
I did it.
You were the only one.